You guys are now 5 years in, but at the time you embark on a relationship and you decide you want to get pregnant. Like, we're going to do it. We're going to try for a baby. And as we know, there are some challenges with women who are living with HIV when it comes to pregnancy in general. So, were there any like thoughts of, oh my gosh, I'm already dealing with this virus on top of this, and now I'm trying to bring human life into the world? Like, what does that look like? Tell us the challenges you experienced, what you were thinking, how your partner felt. I want to know it all.
Sure. So, to be honest with you, I never wanted to have a child. Like I mentioned, like I've had abortions, and it's like that's another topic, another conversation, because I think that like it's so heavy. It's really heavy having abortions. I think that people like take it very lightly, and it's almost like something's like, oh, it was my choice or something, but like the choice is very hard. And even though like it was my choice and I felt like the best thing for me to do at the time, like it was something that traumatized me because I'm like, I killed my baby. But besides the point, right? When I got diagnosed with HIV, at that moment I realized that I wanted to be a mother. The moment that it was threatened, the moment that I felt like all chances were out the window because I didn't know that HIV positive women could have babies at that time. Um, I'm like, I want to have a kid. Like, I need to have a kid. And that's when I started crying. I feel like I remember, like, I started crying when I realized that I wasn't able to, I thought I wasn't going to be able to conceive. And they're like, no, you can have a baby. Like, and I'm like, I can, like, snot all up in my face. So at that moment, I knew that I wanted to be a mother at some point. Like, never before in my life, like, the thought of it scared me, it freaked me out. It was horrible. But at that moment, I knew that for a fact, God had called me to be a mother. And so, um, yeah, it's the middle of the pandemic or the start of the pandemic, and there's honestly nothing really for two newly like coupled people to do when there's a shutdown but like have sex. And so and watch Netflix, binge Netflix and whatever. And so it got to the point that like I wasn't on birth control. I didn't like to be on birth control, but we were just like doing like plan Bs a lot. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like I'm not doing this. I'm not putting my body through this. Like the next time that you decide to like not pull out essentially, like we're gonna follow through with this. I'm gonna have a baby. I'm gonna get pregnant. And then he was like, okay, okay, like we had that tough talk and I was like very stern with him. And then that same night he did it. And I was like, and looked me in the eyes. I'm sorry to get all intimate, but like he was just like looking at me while he was doing it. And I was just like, what the heck, dude? Like, I didn't think that this was I didn't realize that this was gonna happen so quickly. I thought I was gonna scare him off for at least like a month. But no, I guess when you know, you know, and I don't know, he knew. And so it turns out that I didn't end up getting pregnant after that time. And I think that it had to do something with the Depo-Provera that I was on. Depo-Provera is extremely aggressive, and I got on it in 2019, and it's about a year of like birth control. And so this was I guess I got pregnant September of 2020. We started trying in like May or something. And then I guess I got pregnant like in August or September. So we were very intentional about it. Like I would get so sad after every negative test. And he's like, it's okay, we're gonna continue trying. And so it was never anything that I was scared about. Like, I did research. Like if there's anything, like I do my research and I tried to know as much as I could know about the disease that I was living with. And so, and I spoke to my doctor about it. I talked to my doctor about everything. So I was like, listen, I want to get pregnant. So she immediately changed my medication because the medication that I was on, it was Discovoy, and Discovoy does not protect the fetus. It only protects mom. So she put me on Complera. Complera protects both the fetus and mom from HIV, keeps me undetectable, and prevents the baby from acquiring HIV in the womb. And so I was already on Complera for several months before I even got pregnant. And then I got pregnant, and it was, I mean, that whole year was just rather odd because like it was the beginning of the pandemic, so it was definitely an odd time to be pregnant anyway. Um, but I didn't feel like I give people grace, even doctors, even medical practitioners. I give them grace because even though they are supposed to know all the things that they're supposed to know, like you know, I give people grace, especially when it comes to my diagnosis. And I like just by the way that they would like say certain things like, "Oh, do you know your numbers?" And I'm like, "My numbers? Like what do you even mean? Like am I diabetic? Like what are you talking about? Like what numbers am I supposed to know?" And like, like are you cleared? And I'm like, so what do you like? Am I undetectable? And they're like, yeah, are you undetectable? And I'm like, yes, I'm undetectable. So things like that, like I just realized that they're still like a little bit uncomfortable or don't even know the right verbiage. And I think that language is so important when it comes to ending the stigma surrounding HIV because I mean, that's the way that we create worlds through our words, through the way that we communicate. That's the way that we create realities. And so it's very important for medical practitioners, especially, that are going to be dealing with people that are HIV positive, both men and women, to be a little bit more well versed. But aside from that, like it was okay, it was fine. I think that a big part of it has to do with my energy, like how I show up in the world and my personality. Because even when they felt uncomfortable, I didn't. Like I treated myself as if I was a regular person, like because I am. So that was just like, I think that something that comes with being HIV positive and living a fulfilled life is that you have to accept yourself even if no one accepts you. Like that is the key. If you disclose in order for people to accept you, you're disclosing for the wrong reasons because disclosure doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't mean that people are going to want to be with you. It doesn't mean that people are going to love you. Like just because you disclose doesn't mean that you did something noble. At least not I think that it's not noble because like if it was you didn't sacrifice anything outside of your ego in order to disclose. And I'm not saying that disclosure is something that should be taken lightly, but when people are like, you're so brave, you're so this, you're so that, it's just like, well, I want to show up as myself. I don't want to live a lie. Like, I don't care if you guys don't like me. Like, of course, my ego cares. It's not like I'm like, I don't have feelings, but your dislike of me is not greater than my desire to be liked by myself. Like, I desire to like myself and love the skin that I'm in, like the person that I am. I want to be proud of that. I want to reflect Jesus every single day of my life. And Jesus was not afraid of saying anything. He said everything how it was, and he said it with love, and he said it with compassion. But sometimes he said it with thoroughness, and holding nothing back. And so that is why, like, when people are like, oh, but they're gonna reject me, I'm like, they might. But remember, you're not disclosing for anyone else but yourself. So going back to like being pregnant, like I treated myself in every single space as if I was as worthy as the next person to receive the same care, the same understanding, the same compassion and professionalism. I didn't feel like I was unworthy of these things. And I think that's what made my experience like rather normal. Because I didn't feel awkward in my own skin. Like I just felt like, yeah, this is what it is.
For the people who are watching and may not know, it is possible to be HIV positive and you bring a HIV negative baby into this world. So, what were some of the parameters that you had to take to ensure that your baby was born into this world HIV negative?
Well, number one is to continue taking your medication, continue like remaining undetectable. And let's say this is the reality for a lot of people, which is a very unfortunate reality, but a reality nonetheless, is that there's a lot of women that find out that they're HIV positive when they find out that they're pregnant. And so these are two things. And oftentimes, like they're not ready for the pregnancy, let alone an HIV diagnosis. And so, um, in that, right? There is a possibility for your child to still come out HIV negative, even if you find out that you're HIV positive. Especially if you find out early on in the pregnancy, the child can still be protected within the womb so long as you reach undetectable status as soon as possible. And the medication might be a little bit more aggressive, but your child would come out HIV negative nonetheless. So even if you find yourself like in a situation where you are pregnant and you found out when you were pregnant, your child can still come out HIV negative and you could still live a long and healthy life as the mother of this child. And so, yeah. And another thing is that a lot of misconceptions are is that like, oh, well, if a mother is HIV negative, then she has to have a cesarean, which there's nothing. I mean, listen, cesareans are something that happen, you know, some women prefer cesareans, okay, because they can determine the date, the actual day that the baby comes out. So But that's not the case at all. I had a vaginal delivery, completely natural. And this is something that it's a great advancement in the science surrounding HIV because most babies acquired HIV through the vaginal delivery. And so during this time, the baby does require medication at the time of labor. So they do pump in some antiretrovirals in there. And after the delivery, the baby is then put on medication for about 6 weeks, 6 to 12 weeks. I can't really remember. And does go get tested. So my daughter had to get tested 3 times. Was it easy? It was not easy. I mean, it was really hard to see my daughter getting tested and blood being drawn, but my daughter is healthy. It was only 3 times. She's not on medication and she's perfectly, healthy for the glory of God. And so, yeah, it was very easy. The only uncomfortable thing I should say is that I got induced, and that's not anything specific to an HIV positive woman, but I would have preferred like just having a completely like natural kind of like I show up and I'm already like 6 centimeters dilated. So that wasn't the case for me. I felt every single contraction at like 100%, even when I was 2 centimeters dilated. So that was rather uncomfortable and hard, but baby, that's all part of it. That's the glory and beauty and pain of child labor. You could plan it as perfectly as you want, but sometimes, things just don't happen that way.